Welcome all to our Adult Sunday School for our last Sunday in November 30th, last day of the month, as well as last service and Sunday School. So we will be in Numbers 17 this morning. You should get the screen share going. We are going through the Bible timeline and have arrived in the late spring, early summer of the year 1445 on our calendar. So we are in the Middle Bronze Age 2B. China's being led by Emperor Huairen of the Shang Dynasty. Egypt is being led in the south by the 13th Dynasty pharaohs, currently Pharaoh Ibi something Matre. We don't have his whole name. And in the north, in the 14th dynasty, by Pharaoh Nubusiri-ya-Amu, first of these early pharaohs of the 14th dynasty, outside foreigner Hyksos who have come in, taking advantage of the devastation of Egypt with the Exodus. So this is a low point for Egypt. This is what's referred to as their second intermediate period, after the Middle Kingdom, before the New Kingdom. So that's how those things are stacking up at this snapshot moment in time in Numbers 17. Over here in modern Iraq and Babylon, we have on the throne King Ammi-Datana, who's the great-grandson of the famous Hammurabi. Lord's people in number 17 are still here in Kadesh, south of the Promised Land that they are looking forward to entering. And I've just been told that it's going to be a bit of a delay. Let's see here. Go to that right here. So here they are in the yellowish green here, and then the orange here is the Negev. That's the route the spies took. So here they are in number 17. With the Lord's people here, the tribe of Judah, the line of Christ, we have Aminadab, I guess about 99 years old here. Nahshon, his son, I'm guessing at 40 years old. Nahshon is the 28th generation of Adam. He will be grandpa to Boaz and third great-grandpa to David. So we have finally made it through Numbers 16. And again, we're not going to be going through all of the Law of Moses and Judges word for word in every chapter like we did a few years back. Bring out some highlights. Number 16 and other chapters are definitely worth spending the time in. And so I'm glad that we did and enjoyed the conversations, appreciated them very much that we had. So now we're getting into Numbers 17. And we'll be getting ready for the moving forward of the clock as they spend their years wandering in the wilderness. But this happens first. And so what happens here in number 17, coming off of everything? So quick recap. They were told to go into the Promised Land. The spies came back and the people freaked out. And they said, no, we're not going. And the Lord said, well, then y'all are going to die wandering in this wilderness. By the way, you 10 spies who gave the bad report, zap, you're dead. And that's the result. So they went to bed and woke up in the morning, realized, wow, that we weren't expecting that. So, okay, yeah, we'll go now. God says, that ship has sailed, that die is cast, don't do it, I'm not going to be with you. They try anyway to force the issue, and they get their rear end handed to them and get chased away. And so that's twice in this that they didn't obey the Lord. Then we have Korah's rebellion, along with Dathan and Abiram, who are blaming Moses and Aaron for elevating themselves, and that this was coming from them and not God. And so they're going to pick up their toys and go to Egypt. Why do they keep wanting to go back to Egypt? I don't know. They did it with Jeremiah in the devotionals, but yeah.
They just want to walk like an Egyptian.
Yeah, they want to walk like an Egyptian. Yeah, they've got the bangles on in their earbuds. I guess that's the sad human nature of when we're uncomfortable, we regress to what we're familiar, better the frying pan we know than the fire we don't know, or something like that. So they want to go back to Egypt, and so the Lord says, okay, let's Moses through the Lord through Moses says to them that y'all put fire in your incense burners, your censers, and come meet here in the morning, and the Lord's going to make it known. And so the Lord's also gives an opportunity for the congregation. Where are you guys going to stand with this? So a line is actually drawn, even if it's not directly in the sand. A clear line of separation is made. Okay, all of you who are with these folks, go stand by them, and all of you who don't want what's going to be happening to them to happen to you, stand back and separate. Sometimes we have this saying that when we see something bad is going to happen to someone, that they're bringing it on themselves. We're like, we stand back because we don't want to get hit when the lightning strikes, and we don't want to get singed, but because we know it's not going to be a good thing. Hopefully we're doing our Ezekiel watchman role, but yeah. And so sure enough, the separation is made, and the earth opens up and swallows them alive into the grave. And so then the people still didn't get the message, and so they start grumbling after that. And so then a plague starts coming in, just wiping them out. And then Moses has Aaron go intercede for them. So Aaron runs in and steps in between the dead and the living, and the plague is stopped after about 14,700, I think it was, that died in that plague. And so, 14,700 there at the end of number 16. So after boom, 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 you're not following God, you're not following God, you're not following God, consequence, consequence, consequence. Now here we are in Numbers 17. So the Lord is now going to do something to say, basically, if you haven't got the message by now, this is how I'm laying it out. This is how I'm going to let you know how I'm leading and whom I am leading with and through. So let's check out number 17. Number 17, let's look at the first 11 verses. Number 17, verse 1. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and obtain from them a staff for each father's household, 12 staffs from all their leaders for their father's households. You shall write each man's name on his staff, and write Aaron's name on the staff of Levi. For there is to be one staff for the head of each of their father's households. You shall then leave them in the tent of meeting in front of the testimony, where I meet with you. And it will come about that the staff of the man whom I choose will sprout. So I will relieve myself of the grumblings of the sons of Israel, who are grumbling against you. So Moses spoke to the sons of Israel, and all their leaders gave him a staff, one for each leader, for their father's households, 12 staffs in all, with the staff of Aaron among their staffs. Then Moses left the staffs before the Lord in the tent of the testimony. Verse 8. Now, on the next day, Moses went into the tent of the testimony, and behold, Aaron's staff for the house of Levi had sprouted and produced buds and bloomed with blossoms, and it yielded ripe almonds. Moses then brought out all the staffs from the presence of the Lord to all the sons of Israel. And they looked, and each man took his staff. But the Lord said to Moses, Put the staff of Aaron back in front of the testimony to be kept as a sign against the rebels, so that you may put an end to their grumblings against me, and they do not die. Moses did so, just as the Lord had commanded him, so he did. So what do we think? What do we think about this?
So he was trying to make it where Moses and Aaron weren't going to be accused of doing it, and it was definitely from God.
100%, Sister Carolyn, you nailed it. As she said, so the Lord's making sure that the people all see this is coming from God and not Moses and Aaron, and so they stop this argument when they've got the evidence right in front of them, and it's going to stay, that evidence is going to remain. The Lord, again.
One of the many, right?
I mean, how many times?
How many times? Yeah.
Hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed. Here we are. Human nature, nothing new under the sun. I really appreciate what's said at the end here in verse 10. But the Lord said to Moses, Put the staff of Aaron back in front of the testimony to be kept as a sign against the rebels. So here is the grace of God in all of this. This is to be a sign for the rebels. What's the grace? Is that he's just not dropping the rebels dead, but you very well could. Again, weakness versus rebellion. Instead of dropping the rebels dead, which he has every right and reason to do, He said, I'm giving them an opportunity by giving this for them to be seeing with their own eyes. Here it is. To be kept as a sign against the rebels, so you may put an end to their grumblings against me, and so they do not die. So here, this came from God. We all saw Moses put all 12 rods there with the tent of meeting there. Came out in the morning, and it was only Aaron's that budded. Everyone got theirs back. So y'all saw this, right? No one went in and did this. No one could. This growth was a growth only God could accomplish. So does this end all debate now? Is the matter closed now? This was God. End of story. I see that look on Sister Carolyn's face. But here's the opportunity God's providing. Okay, there was a question. Here's the answer, my answer. Are we done now? Rather than just smiting y'all, I'm giving you a chance. Here y'all see this. And he says, I'm doing this so that you may, as a sign against the rebels in verse 10, so that you may put an end to their grumblings against me, and they do not die. Again, right out of Ezekiel 33. I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked. Rebelling against God is wickedness. I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked. Rather, they turn from their ways and live. Just as Samuel will tell Saul before David. It would say, to obey is better than sacrifice. And insurrection is as witchcraft and the sin of rebellion and all that. And rebellion is like idolatry and witchcraft and all that stuff. And so Moses did that. And God, so in the beginning of 10, God told him, okay, now that this is said and done, now put the staff of Aaron back in front of the testimony. So hold your place here. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9. Let's look at the first 5 verses. Hebrews 9, 1 through 5. Hebrews 9, verse 1. Now, even the first covenant had regulations for divine worship and the earthly sanctuary, for a tabernacle was equipped, the outer sanctuary, in which were the lampstand, the table, and the sacred bread. This is called the holy place. Behind the second veil, there was a tabernacle, which is called the most holy place, having a golden altar of incense, and the ark of the covenant, covered on all sides with gold, in which was a golden jar holding the manna, Aaron's staff which budded, and the tablets of the covenant. And above it were the cherubim of glory, overshadowing the atoning cover or mercy seat. But about these things we cannot now speak in detail. So, even long after this incident in 1445 BC, Aaron's rod remained in the Ark of the Covenant, along with the jar of manna and the second copy of the Ten Commandments. So it was to be a lasting reminder there. And quick side note, complete side note, but going back to our discussion on the historical fiction of The Chosen, in the last episode we had a Bible study on season 5, episode 6, I think it was, where Brother Clay brought up an excellent question about the high priest Caiaphas, and how if Caiaphas was evil in his movements against Christ and manipulations and all that stuff and working of things, why did God strike him dead? Because we see they had like a rope with bells on them when they went into the Holy of Holies once a year on the Day of Atonement. And we had some good discussion on that. One thing that did not occur to me to mention in that discussion in relation to the high priest, which Aaron is, as Caiaphas was put in that position, and entering the Holy of Holies, one big difference is that the whole point of the Day of Atonement and the Holy of Holies was to meet with God at the place of meeting, and that place of meeting would be the mercy seat, the atoning cover of the Ark of the Covenant, as the incense was smoking, and that was to be the meeting place. When Caiaphas was a high priest, there was no Ark of the Covenant. We have no record of the Ark of the Covenant after the takeover by Babylon. And so we don't know what happened to it since then. So my point being, just to add some interest to the discussion, is that by the time of Caiaphas, And even with the restoration and the temple, we mentioned how the temple was recognized even by the Jews as being, even though Christ did call it my Father's house, still there's something missing. There was something less spiritual about it. We have beautiful passage, heartbreaking passage in Ezekiel chapter 10 about the vision of the glory of God leaving Solomon's temple before Babylon destroys it. We don't have any vision of that same Spirit of God entering in the second temple, which Caiaphas was at. And so just interesting side note there. But for our purposes here, for number 17, Aaron's rod was with the Ark of the Covenant all the centuries that they had it, at least up until the Babylonian captivity. And we don't have confirmation of anything valid since then.
You know, you say one of the things, there was the jar of manna.
Yep.
And I'm assuming it was preserved.
Exactly.
Who in their right mind would destroy that? You know, it's been there for 1,000 years or whatever, and then somebody comes along apparently and destroys it.
We don't know if it's destroyed. We just don't know if it still exists where it is.
Where it is.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you know, there other things in the temple were gone.
Yeah.
Like looted or
Mhm.
ransacked. Or
And in fact, one of the night of Babylon's downfall was when Belshazzar, he and his father were co-reigning as king. And so Belshazzar was having, in Daniel chapter 5, was having his big feast and was using the temple treasuries to have a drunken party with his buddies. And that's when we have the famous passage of the writing on the wall and the sentence being passed. And that very night he was killed. And so, so we know about some of the treasure, and we're told that Cyrus, when Persia took over, conquered Babylon, we know that Cyrus in his first year had his famous decree allowing them to return and rebuild. And he also allowed them to take what they were able to take as far as the temple treasuries with them. We have no record or indication that the Ark of the Covenant made it back. And so, so it's a thought. But at least for the time that they had it, Aaron's rod, from this moment in number 17, remained in the Ark of the Covenant, just like the preserved jar of manna that you so rightfully point out. Jonathan Kahn in the Oracle makes this observation about this. An almond tree is a symbol of resurrection, first of the trees to put forth blossoms. I didn't know that. Sister Leslie's going, yep, that's right. I did not know this. Thank you for the confirmation. The Hebrew word, the Kohanim, are the priests of Israel, ministers of God, keepers of his sanctuary. From Numbers 17, verse 8, he says, Aaron's staff for the house of Levi had sprouted and produced buds and bloomed with blossoms, and it yielded the ripe almonds. So that's what we're seeing here. There's the confirmation from God. Beyond that, the priests are the keepers of the Jubilee. They oversee the Jubilean transactions, the relinquishing of the land, and the restoration. In fact, several of the Jubilean ordinances specifically require the priests ministering. And it is the priests who mark, herald, and proclaim the Jubilean year to the rest of the nation. So there is authority, there's responsibility, there is leadership, there is a nation to be following the ordinances and ordaining as God has laid it out here. And so that was the whole point, starting with Aaron's rod here. Okay, I've made it clear. If it wasn't clear before like it should have been, here it is. This is the deal. Not going to tolerate any shenanigans from now. So here we go. It mentions also, writing out the chapter, number 17, 12, and 13. Then the sons of Israel spoke to Moses, saying, so how are they going to respond to all this, right? Behold, we are passing away. We are perishing. We are all perishing. Everyone who comes near to the tabernacle of the Lord must die. Are we to perish completely? Basically, it's like a kid getting punished, sent to bed without supper. I'm going to starve to death. Oh no, this is too much. This is too mean. This is too hard. We're not going to live. No, do this and you shall live. And so, yeah. So any other reactions, thoughts, questions, observations on number 17 and Aaron's rod?
I understand the whole thing. God has just been gracious
Thank you. Thank you. From their perspective, he keeps whooping on us. Well, you keep not getting the message and you keep choosing contrary. There's positive reinforcements available too. You're choosing to be on the receiving end of negative reinforcements. But Sister Leslie's so right. This is all God's grace because he could have done far worse at any given time. And every time he doesn't do far worse, even when the less than worse is still a punishment, is still a correction, is still a spanking, it's still grace in that it is intended to bring them around and show them, hey, I spared you from much worse, and I'm offering you even better. Just surrender the battle of wills and come do it my way because I'm looking out for you. The things I'm denying you, the things I am protecting you from are exactly that, protection. Everything God does is for the betterment of our lives. Even if we know the saying in Hebrews 11 or 12 talks about this, how discipline is no fun when we endure it, but we accept it from our parents. How much more our Heavenly Father? The saying when we're working out in the gym, I say when people who go to gyms they work out in the gym, no pain, no gain, right? Even if correction and discipline, which isn't just punishment, discipline is disciplining, aligning and guiding into a way of life. Even if there are growing pains, even if there are sacrifices and enduring of things in that growth, it is always for do this because I love you. I'm doing it for your own good. But with God, it's true. Even things that we have to suffer, we suffer in the flesh for the betterment of our spirit. Now, that doesn't mean we go to an extreme and we are abusive of our flesh because that makes us more spiritual. No. Our flesh is a gift from God as well. It's sin infected, but it's still a gift. So there's a right way to take care of that. But ultimately, it's first and foremost about, in this marriage relationship, following and has the Lord earned our faith and trust and following as his bride. That's what they were to be then, is what we are to be now. And that's the key. We can have conversations with him. We can come, let us reason together. That's not the issue. It's a matter of, do we recognize he knows what he's doing? His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. He loves us. He considers us his flock. Very personal. That's my flock, right there. And he wants to care for us, protecting us, correcting us, whatever it takes. He wants to care for us to deliver us into the good that he has for us. They didn't get it. They were whining children, complaining about being punished versus recognizing they are being spared worse and being offered so much better if they will just get with his program, which they said they would, which is what they signed up for in the first place. So any other thoughts on number 17? Alrighty. So we will not be reading all of Numbers 18, but let's go down to verse 7. Numbers 18, verse 7. Talking about the Levites here. Actually, let's go to verse 6. Talking about the distinction between the Levites and the sons of Aaron. Because they're all sons of Aaron, but the line of Aaron under them is unique in that. So Numbers 18, verse 6, the Lord says, "Behold, I myself have taken your fellow Levites from among the sons of Israel. They are a gift to you, dedicated to the Lord, to perform the service for the tent of meeting." So again, Brother Howard had mentioned the excellent parallel of basically consider the Levites to be like deacons, taking care of the practical things so that the priests are freed up. So they are a gift to you to perform the service for the tent of the meeting. Verse 7, Numbers 18:7, "But you and your sons with you shall attend to your priesthood for everything that concerns the altar and inside the veil, and you are to perform service. I am giving you the priesthood as a service, that is a gift. And the unauthorized person who comes near shall be put to death." Just like Korah and them tried to assume it for themselves. So the priesthood is a gift. A gift is to be a blessing. Now, in this case, does the gift of the priesthood come with its responsibilities, come with its burdens? Sure. But, and this is very important for pastors and preachers and ministers to recognize, never lose sight of the fact that if what you have is truly from God, always see it as the gift that it is. Never get so bogged down with responsibilities or overwhelmed with the burdens that you fail to see the precious gift that it is. And so I can speak firsthand and say, absolutely it is. And my eyes have not, over the course of my 20 plus years in the ministry, have not always been seeing it as the gift that it is. And I don't want to take that for granted. I don't want to miss out on the joy of being the recipient of a gift. And so what is that joy that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle? Well, that joy is recognizing we are in an opportunity while people have direct access to God, God works through people. The minister's job is to not be a buffer between people and God, but to be a support in people's relationship with God, especially the flock if you're pastoring. And so being able to be of use and service to help strengthen and even reconnect people with their God and God with their people when they're hurting and in need. His masterful great shepherdness and his solutions and his provisions and connecting with that. There's no greater joy than to see that and to see God's will and his desire and his provision taking place for the flock that he loves so much. And to see people going through all their struggles, all their pulls in different directions, all their whispering of Satan and others in their ear, all the things that could, by all means, take them out and take them away, to see people, to be able to play some small role in helping people and seeing people decide for themselves that no matter what comes their way, no matter what obstacles, what things to endure, what circumstances, they are seeing their Lord enough and the love of their shepherd enough, they're not going to depart from that. They're going to draw close to him, follow him and trust him, and we see the victories that come from that. To be a spectator in that is amazing. To be able to serve and help and play any small role in seeing that, strengthening that connection and seeing that end result is amazing. So yeah, it is an incredible gift. And it's a beautiful thing. And so God is telling Aaron here that the Levites are here to help you. They're the Levites. You're the line of priests. You've got some job to do, but this is a gift for you. And so may all pastors everywhere appreciate it for that. Let's see. Let's go down to, still in chapter 18. Let's go down to verse 21. A little curious here. Numbers 18:21, Lord says, "To the sons of Levi, behold, I have given all the tithe in Israel as an inheritance, in return for their service which they perform in the service of the tent of meeting." So basically, their tithes from the people, since the Levites are given no inheritance, as the land is getting allotted to the different tribes, there's no land for the Levites. They have no land inheritance. They're given individual cities spread out through all the tribes of Israel. But what they're given here is the tithe is to support the work that they're doing, since they're not able to do what they would normally do with the big land inheritance. And so, in return for their service, which they perform, service of the tent of meeting. What's interesting about recognizing here that the Levites receive tithes, let's go to back to Hebrews, an older place here, Hebrews chapter 7. Talking about how Melchizedek is greater than the Levites as far as the priesthoods go. In fact, what's even said about the Levites and tithing in Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews chapter 7, let's pick up in verse 4. Now remember, Melchizedek was the guy, when Abraham heard that Lot had been captured, he got some guys together, went out and rescued Lot, brought him back. And the king of Salem, which is peace, which is Jerusalem, king of Salem, Melchizedek, came out, and Abraham gave tithes to King Melchizedek, and Melchizedek blessed Abraham. So remember, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Levi. So Levi is would be Abraham's great grandson. And then the Levites coming through Levi, including Moses and the line of Aaron, the high priest. So Hebrews chapter 7, verse 4. We're told this. Hebrews 7:4. Now observe how great this man was, Melchizedek, to whom Abraham, the patriarch, gave a tenth of the choicest spoils. And those indeed of the sons of Levi, who receive the priest's office, have a commandment in the law to collect a tenth from the people, that is, from their countrymen, although they are descended from Abraham. But the one, Melchizedek, whose genealogy is not traced from them, the Levites, collected a tenth from Abraham, and blessed the one who had the promises. So verse 6 says that Melchizedek, not traced from the Levites, he was before the Levites, the Levites who received tithes, yet their great-grandpa Abraham himself tithed to Melchizedek, is what's being said in verse 6. Verse 7 talks about this. But without any dispute, the lesser person is blessed by the greater. And so Abraham gave Melchizedek tithes, and Melchizedek blessed Abraham. Verse 7 says, the lesser is blessed by the greater. So if Melchizedek blessed Abraham, and Abraham offered tithes to Melchizedek, then Hebrews 7 is saying Melchizedek is greater than Abraham. The lesser is blessed by the greater. Verse 8. In this case, referring to the Levites, what we're told there in Numbers 18, in this case, mortal men receive tithes on an ongoing basis, but in that case, Abraham and Melchizedek, one receives them, Melchizedek, of whom it is witnessed that he lives on. According to the Holy Spirit-inspired writer of Hebrews chapter 7, Melchizedek is still alive. That's interesting. And verse 9 and 10 get really interesting. And so to speak, through Abraham, even Levi, who received tithes, has paid tithes. For he, Levi, was still in the loins of his forefather Abraham when Melchizedek met him. Stop there. So basically, the Holy Spirit-inspired writer of Hebrews is saying, even Levi, the Levites who received tithes, even they paid tithes, in the sense because it was their ancestor Abraham who tithed to Melchizedek. And they were still in the loins of Abraham when Abraham did this. So basically, the order of spiritual hierarchy here is Melchizedek, then Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 tribes, then Levi, and then the line of Aaron under Levi, and then the other Levites serving as ministers to help him in that priesthood. Saying that Melchizedek is above them all because the Levites are down here under Abraham, and the Levites are under Levi, who's under Abraham, and Abraham is under Melchizedek. So, in a sense, they who receive tithes from all the nations of all the tribes of Israel, they are ultimately even under Melchizedek, because their great-grandpa Abraham, they were still in his loins, as was their dad and grandpa, but when Abraham was tithing to Melchizedek. So the point here is Melchizedek is still greater than the Levites. And the fact that he says mortal men receive tithes. These Levites who receive these tithes, they die. Melchizedek lives on, which is really interesting. Melchizedek, Melech meaning king, and Sidek meaning righteousness, king of righteousness is how he's described. Well, Jesus Christ in other passages is certainly described as his name will be king of righteousness. And so my personal conviction is that Melchizedek seems very likely to have been Jesus Christ himself before being born of Mary. There are only two people in the Melchizedek ever described as being in the Melchizedek priesthood, Melchizedek and Jesus. And as we preached through the series a few months ago, going through the book of Hebrews, there is only the requirement for the Melchizedek priesthood is to have an indestructible life, the power of an indestructible life, which was actually the theme for that passage. And only Jesus has that. We're all mortals. We all die. The popes die. All of us die. And so Jesus is eternal. Jesus lives on, and so he's qualified. And so while the Levites were in a beautiful position of service, and it was a gift to them, it was still subservient to the Melchizedek priesthood that was above Abraham, and that ultimately Christ would take on in the flesh as he came and live out in eternity afterwards. So real quick, let's take a couple, anything on Levi and the tithing and Melchizedek and the ranking there. Does that kind of make sense in the big picture? See it play out? Yeah. Let's close in Numbers 19. And when we do this quick thing in Numbers 19, next week we'll pick up with actually the wandering and starting off on their journeys, waiting till year 40. But Numbers chapter 19, flip back on over here, the famous red heifer. Y'all have heard about the red heifer thing? You heard the phrase red heifer? What's a heifer? Cow.
That's where they get strawberry milk.
It's where they get strawberry milk, yes. So closing here, Numbers 19. Just a couple things to point out. Let's look at the first two verses. Numbers 19, verse 1. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, This is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, that they bring you an unblemished red heifer, in which there is no defect, and on which a yoke has never been mounted. Okay, so there's the requirements for the heifer. What's the heifer going to be used for? Well, the heifer gets burned. Pick up in verse 8. The one who burns the heifer shall also wash his clothes in water, bathe his body in water, will be unclean till evening. Now a man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer, put them outside the camp in a clean place, and the congregation of the sons of Israel shall keep them for water to remove impurity. It is purification from sin. And the one who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes, will be unclean until evening. It shall be a permanent statute for the sons of Israel and for the stranger who resides among them. So basically, the ashes of the red heifer are used with water as part of a purification ritual for those who would serve in this high office here. And what does that have to do with anything, and why are we hearing about it in modern times? As we'll see in the Dragon's Prophecy film this afternoon, red heifers, having red heifers would be a requirement to reestablish the temple order of things. And so, with a desire to have a temple there in Jerusalem again, which the Temple Mount is the focal point of the end times, you can't just have a temple, you got to have people qualified to serve in the temple, which would require the ashes of a red heifer. Well, we haven't seen or heard of a red heifer for thousands of years until recently. We've talked about that in our Wednesday nights. That'll come up in the Dragon's Prophecy film we're going to look at and discuss this afternoon. So that's what the Bible actually says about the red heifers, that their ashes are used with the water as part of this purification. But it's a very rare thing, and as mentioned, has been missing for a couple thousand years until recently. So we'll end with that. Does anyone have any other thoughts, comments, questions on the red heifer or any of the things we looked at? Yeah.
Red heifer, now, in my knowledge of cattle,
Yeah.
I can close my eye and point to a red heifer.
Brother Clay makes the point, well, I can point out, I see red cows all over the place. It's apparently not the same thing.
Apparently, that's why when you use the term, is it an ox?
I don't know the intimate details of what the distinction and what the requirements are between what separates this from all the brownish, reddish cows we see kind of all the time.
Because it said, has never had a yoke around its neck.
Yep.
So that made me think right then, well, it was an ox or one of those beasts.
Yeah.
They weren't really,
beasts of burden. Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily raising for meat.
Right. not necessarily a beef cow or a milking cow. Yeah. So we'll see more of that in the show and in the movie, and have some discussion on that. So yeah, good observation. So clearly it is something unique that is very, very rare and hard to find, that they've gone a long time without. So we'll go ahead and stop there. We'll pick up next week with the setting out from Kadesh in their years of wandering, passing the time until year 40 arrives, and the new generation can go forward. So with that, we'll go ahead and stop our screen share, and we'll stop recording, and let's get ready to go before the Lord in song and worship together.